I am really glad to be talking about NAI football tonight. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is the fact that Midwest Sportsnet is based in the state of Oklahoma. And what Division I football in the state of Oklahoma provided for me on Saturday was, one, a loss in the Red River Shootout, in which the team that I was cheering for didn't even score a touchdown. And the other, up the road at Stillwater, it's been a rough season, but the only thing memorable about that is Section 231. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and give that a Google search, Section 231, and see what you can find about that for Oklahoma State. In the meantime, I'm here to talk about NAI football. I'm here with Stewart Davis tonight, and he covers a fantastic team. And Stewart, just as we went on, man, my throat closed up, so we're going up to the very first cough drop of the night. I want to let you talk for a little bit. Tell us about the game that you watched on Saturday.
It was a fantastic game between Carroll College and the University of Montana Western. It had everything. It had big swings, momentum plays, special team snafus. In the end, the Saints offense was prolific enough to come away with a 42-34 victory over the Bulldogs in a matchup in which Carroll had not beaten Western since 2015 in Dillon, Montana. That's the home of Montana Western. So it's been a long time. They actually hadn't won a game in the series between the Bulldogs and the Saints since 2022. I called that game 16-10. In the last couple of years, the Bulldogs knocked Carroll out from the conference championship race late in the season and kept them out of the playoffs. And so now that Carroll has won this ball game and they have an opportunity to control their own destiny in the Frontier Conference Western Division. It was a lot of fun. But, Carroll's offense has been explosive the last few weeks. Caden Hewitt, Helena native, went to University of Montana, transferred home, and now he's thrown for over 1,000 yards in his last 3 games, including 349 in that ball game with 5 touchdown passes. He also had a rushing score in 50 yards. It's really, really nice to see that offense meet the complementary football of the defense, because that defense has been big boy for the last few years under head coach Troy Purcell. They have been championship ready, and the offense hasn't quite been there, and now they are. And again, it had everything. It was a monsoon and big time atmosphere in Dillon. It was a great game, and the Fighting Saints came out on top.
And I'm sure that made you happy as someone who, is on that side in the press box, or possibly outside.
It was a tent. I had a press tent.
Getting a very interesting view of the game. All right, let me stop there for a moment, because we talked just a little bit about that off the air and what it means to broadcast football in different situations. So it's you not only have the broadcast tent, but you had a little rain to deal with as well.
It was a monsoon, and the wind was blowing directly into our faces, so the tent kept it off our heads, but it was blowing through. So I had towels and tubs covering my equipment, and my feet were waterlogged. But when the Fighting Saints came out on top, you felt really great. So the elements were a factor for not only me, but definitely for both teams. Ball security at times was a problem. There were a few turnovers for both teams in the ball game, but it was definitely not ideal conditions.
Now, defense had a say in that one, of course. When you factor in the not ideal conditions into that, it's going to make a difference too. Let's go back to Caden Hewitt for a moment. When I spoke with Coach Purcell this summer, he still hadn't decided, what way to go following the Jack Perka era, which was a fantastic era. In that, what do you do? Who follows that? And he mentioned 4 by name. And I'll again want to stop here for a moment and say I love visiting with Coach Purcell. I don't know that there are too many people that just intimately know their roster as well as he does. And that's not to say that most coaches don't. They do, but just to hear him talk, when he starts talking about the offense, he'll list them out. And I mean, just the hometown, where they've come from, this and that, how they get there, all but their favorite food and their pet's name. He just knows it all and can rattle it off so well. And I think that says something for a coach. Now, to go back to that, he mentioned 4 coaches, or 4 quarterbacks in particular, talked about their strengths. Caden Hewitt, I mean, he really pointed out the strengths that he brought to the table if he were to win position. Well, spoiler alert, he has won the position, and what a season he's had, including yesterday, 22 of 36, 349 passing, 5 passing touchdowns, had a pick in there as well, only had a rushing touchdown as well because he carried the ball 21 times. What a day. Okay, I threw out all the numbers, Stewart. So let's hear your take at seeing it. From the level you did.
Well, what Caden brings is an ability to run and throw. He actually picked up a big fourth down at the end of the ball game that basically secured it. He took it out on the edge, hurdled a man, and got to the line of scrimmage, and they were able to kneel it out for a couple of times and get the win. But he has the best arm talent of anybody I've seen at Carroll in the last decade. He can throw the short, intermediate, and the deep ball. He had 2 touchdown passes to Chris Colshin for over 40 yards, and those were both on 3rd and long. He has the ability to run. He's 6'3", 220 pounds. He's the full package.
And you can see how he, might be able to make that trip up to Division I, Montana, and that the D1 school is looking at him. He decides, you know what, I'd like to go back home. I want to be back, where I can play, and a different perspective for him. But I don't feel like in any way, shape, or form it's a step down because of what's going on at Carroll. I mean, historically good, and Coach Purcell is keeping that level up there. I mean, people would talk about, well, do you want to go from D1 to the NAI? If you're in this situation, absolutely.
I would say Carroll's one of the, if not the most rich in tradition of success at the NAIA level. They've got 6 national championships, 45 conference titles. It's just, one after the, Bob Gagliardi, the all-time winningest college football coach, actually got a start at Carroll College, coached 3 years in the 1950s. But of course, Bob Putter Petrino, his son Bobby Petrino's over at Arkansas, and he was actually Troy Purcell's head coach over at Carroll College back in the 1980s. And Mike Van Diest, he had a John Wooden-like run when he won 6 national championships in a 10-year period. So Carroll's got the bona fides. But Caden, I've been covering him since his freshman year of high school, and you knew it. And he just didn't get the opportunity at Montana for whatever reason. I thought he should have gotten some opportunities, but it never worked out for him. And so we're happy to have him because he unlocks this offense. He, along with a couple of running backs, I want to mention Xavier Ford and Peter Minert. Minert was a Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Idaho a couple of years ago. He's a sophomore now, and Ford transferred in from Texas. They both got ACL injuries last year, and it decimated our running game. Well, they're back, and they're healthy, and it unlocks everything, not only just the passing game and the running game, but the defense, because now you're not going 3 and out. Now you're not, short fields. You're not putting your defense in bad situations. So that running game, along with Hewitt, have really propelled this Carroll team. I think they're averaging about 32 points per game over their last 4 ball games, and the defense is allowing about 12. Now, I know they gave up a few, but that was due to a muffed punt and a pick 6. This defense is lights out for Carroll as well.
Minert had a solid game last week, and I'm sure that the inclement weather probably factored into Hewitt calling his own number as many times as he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, they have the full confidence, offensive coordinator Alex Fanistel. They've got design packages, which, as great as Jack Perka was, and this is no slight to Jack, he set the school record twice for passing yards in a game. He didn't necessarily have the designed run calls in his playbook. He was a capable runner, but Hewitt, they actually have packages to run him. And it's a luxury to have, whether it's short yardage. Of course, he had the touchdown. It was a 1-yard run from the goal line. That was his rushing score. But again, his ability to move it with his legs, he's so big, he can shed first contact. It's a luxury a lot of teams don't have.
Want to give a shout out to the folks in the chat already tonight. Thanks for watching, everyone, being a part of college football this week. Shout out to Robert and to Matt and to Dave already in the chat. I definitely wanted to get to you guys here in just a moment. Visiting with Stewart Davis now, who is on the call for the Carroll Saints, Carroll football, and a number of other things. And I want to give him a chance to shout those out here in just a moment. Chris Akulshin, Carson Ochoa, a part of the receiving core that will help Hewitt build up 349 passing yards on Saturday.
It is a wealth of riches. I asked during media days earlier this year, I asked Carson Ochoa, who was an All-American tight end at the NAIA level last year, is this the deepest skill position, most talented skill position group that you've had at Carroll? And he said yes. And then Coach Purcell said in his time as well, it's unbelievable whether you have Carson and Chris, and then you have a guy named Lincoln Holmes. Ty Wilkinson, a freshman tight end, he's got 4 TD receptions. He and Carson make up one of the best tandems in the NAIA. Connor Sullivan, a dynamic playmaker. And then you got a kid named Gavin Vandenaker. He looked like Dwight Clark running the back of the end zone yesterday for a 2-point conversion. And he also had a touchdown. He had 120 yards in the win over Rocky and 2 TDs a week ago, or excuse me, against Arizona Christian. So there's just so many weapons. You can't really take one or two guys away. Carroll has 6, 7, 8 skill guys that can go off on any night.
Okay, for somebody who was born in Texas, lived in Oklahoma pretty much all of his life, and has seen so many Cowboys games, especially, let's see, was that one in 81 or 80?
I think it was 81.
It was 80. I know it was. I'm just teasing about that. You definitely Google Dwight Clark, and I promise you there will be one catch that comes up.
Yes, absolutely.
That's going to happen there. Okay, so I can visualize that, Stewart.
And I'm a
Absolutely.
Panther fan, not to rub salt in your wound, but that game-winning field goal against your Cowboys. I'm from North Carolina, so the Panthers got the big dub today in Charlotte. It was a good day.
Hey, listen, it was a rough weekend for football for me. If you're talking other than NAI, so I'm glad we get to talk about that tonight. All right, one other thing too about this game, defense did hold. Had a lot to do with Braden Orlandi leading the defense, 10 tackles, and both defenses. I mean, they combined for 8 interceptions, 8 sacks, 4 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. You talked about a pick 6 as well. So the defense did show up.
They did. And again, you're talking about 2 of the most prolific offenses. We know with Western and Michael Palandri, Eli Norris the last couple of years, well, they're still doing their thing. They're averaging about 400 yards passing per game. So they were going to get theirs. Norris had a couple of TDs receiving, and Palandri had 2 touchdowns over 40 yards as well. That's a tough team to stop. And Carroll does have a great defense from front to back. They've got 3 Division I transfers at linebacker, Brett Tomasini, Eli Abe, and Marcus Evans. And, of course, you mentioned Orlandi. He's one of those rare guys that can play safety and win Conference Player of the Year. He's on pace for 100 tackles. They've also got a kid named Gunnar Julio that he's wearing a horseshoe somewhere because he's already got 6 takeaways, 4 interceptions. He's a safety as well, and a couple of fumble recoveries. Carroll's very opportunistic. Randy Bandelow, the defensive coordinator, a very aggressive play caller. They like to get pressure on you, and they were trying to really throw off the timing of Palandri, and they had some success. But again, Carroll was up 22 points in that ball game, and a special teams error and a pick 6 made it an 8-point score, and the defense had to save the day in the end.
All right, Stewart, I'm going to put you on the spot really quickly. A couple of folks in the chat talking about a potential controversial call at the end of the game. Anything that come to mind?
Not from my perspective.
That's why I said I was putting you on the spot.
I mean, they were all great calls from my point of view. The spot for the run for Caden Hewitt, there was a measurement there that could have been an issue. But again, the officials, it was a tough day. I mean, they're literally holding the ball under a towel the entire time because of the monsoon. They were doing the best they could under the conditions they had. And again, I think if you talk to the Carroll fan base as well, they could have said, hey, we could have had some calls go our way that didn't, and it wouldn't have been an 8-point game going into the final 7.5.
All right. Well, I had to ask, and I respect. I respect the folks that are part of the community here. They usually
Absolutely.
have a pretty good handle on what's going on. All right. You host Simpson next week in what I would describe here on the channel as a favorable matchup for Carroll.
Absolutely.
And then after that, the rest of the Frontier Conference schedule from there. If people want to listen to your call or watch what's going on, how do they find you online or on the radio if they just happen to be driving through that mountain time zone?
Sure. Well, again, we're in Helena, Montana, the Queen City of the Rockies, Queen City of Montana, and KCAP. That is KCAP Sports, KCAP.com. We cover high school, college. We've got Cats and Grizz. We're an affiliate there. We are the flagship of the Carroll College Fighting Saints. Every home game, every road game, we do about a 30-minute pregame show called Saints Game Day. You can find us at kcap.com. Just click on whatever logo of team you would like to listen to. We're big in high school as well, Helena High, Capital High, East Helena. So we've got a lot going on. And Carroll's schedule is pretty favorable. They got Simpson, a bye. Then they go to Ashland, a tough place to play before ending with C of I and Eastern. So the layout's good. It's going to be tough games ahead of them. But the Fighting Saints do control their own destiny.
All right. Stewart Davis, thank you very much for being with us here tonight on college football this week. I have appreciated getting to visit with you and following, of course, the Carroll Saints. I mean, that's one of the givens. If you're following NAIA football, you got to follow the Carroll Saints. So we do that. Have a great rest of the season. Maybe we'll get a chance to visit again. But thank you so much for taking some time with us tonight.
I hope we catch up. Joey, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it, and best of luck going forward.
All right. We will move on ahead and give Stewart an opportunity to enjoy the rest of his evening. Well, he's still got an hour to his evening from most of the rest is out here in the Central Time Zone or possibly out in the Eastern Time Zone. I don't know. Henchman 21 may be watching somewhere right now live, so he's out there in that time zone as well. Shout out to all the people who are in the chat tonight, and let me see if I can look at that really quickly. There we go. Oh, well, wow. We've got a lot going on. Go Bulldogs. Robert joining the channel. Got membership last week. I've already changed the graphic, Robert, so thank you very much for being a part of that. Shout out to Dave there to being a part of the show tonight, and Robert as well for being online. Appreciate him. Matt, it's always a good day to be a Comet, so thank you for being on with us tonight as well, and just a lot of folks going on. A lot of folks in the chat tonight. We'll try to get a few of those. Let's see. Yeah, Robert, thank you for that. Oh, you were referring, Robert was referring to the controversial call at the end of the Concordia game, but now needs to go back and watch the Carroll game too. I'm sure that your plate was full with the Concordia game because that was definitely a wild one, which we will bring up a little bit later on and would love to hear your take on that too. I'll throw out a whole lot of numbers from that one. Let's go ahead and we will move on into the recap portion of the show tonight. And there's a lot going on. There were not as many games this week. There was a lot happening, which we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. Got to talk to some Division I football greats earlier in the week. Hopefully you saw that on the channel. We'll get to the top 5 performances at the end, some familiar names as well. And then we're going to talk about how we did in the Bet the Barn segment. And Dave, I may have a bone to pick with Drew somewhere along the way. So let's just go ahead and get right into it right now. Kaiser 49, Florida Memorial 28-6 meeting. Kaiser 6-0 all time. Now 34-0 when scoring at least 40 points in a game. Kaiser hasn't lost a Sun Conference game since 2021. 25 consecutive games in conference play that the Seahawks have won. The last loss was the Southeastern. That was 2017 on October 16th. It's almost exactly 4 years ago, back in 2021. And honestly, that was the only Sun Conference loss for Kaiser other than the opening season for the program. That's just consistency there. Both teams scored in the first quarter. Florida Memorial went up 14-3, 14-10 at the half. Shea Spencer's 2 touchdown passes gave Kaiser the lead it would not relinquish. Kaiser, 441 yards of total offense. Florida Memorial, 455. The Lions didn't go away. Shea Spencer, 19-30 passing, 290 through the air, 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers, through a couple of picks as well. Tyquan Wiggins in his second collegiate start, 11 for 24, 172 passing through a touchdown, 2 interceptions. That's kind of tough going on the road there at Kaiser to get your second collegiate start. Jarrett Sims, 19 carries, 203 rushing yards, a couple of rushing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown as well. So Kaiser now 5-0 on the year. Southeastern to 3-2 as the Fire blank the Nighthawks, 69-0. Thomas falls to 0-6. 7 different players crossed the goal line for Southeastern, scoring 10 touchdowns. 2 of them were defensive touchdowns, like an Oprah show. You get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown. Southeastern's Curtis Kimmons, 15 carries, 103 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Zori Cotton, 8 carries for 71 yards, a couple of rushing touchdowns as well. Weber International, 33. Ave Maria, 16. Weber International got up 26-0 in the fourth quarter. It really wasn't even that close. And Johnny Lewis Jr. had 18 of 25 passing for 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, did not throw a pick. St. Thomas, the Bobcats are now 4-1 with a 52-6 win at Warner. The Bobcats 8-0 all time over Warner. Total offense on this one shows the disparity. St. Thomas 489 yards, Warner 178 yards. The defense had 6 sacks. Trayvon Williams had 3 of them by himself, along with 5 total tackles for loss. Keely Watson, 15-34 passing, 227 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. And David Hayes had 7 catches for 82 yards and 1 of those touchdowns. And we move to the AAC, and Pikeville moves to 1-4 on the year, keeping Rio Grande in the winless column there. If there is a winless column, we may have just made something up. I don't know. 44-0, first meeting between these two programs. I said last week, I will say it again this week, I think the Appalachian Conference should watch out and just be ready, because another 0-4 start for Pikeville, I think they're just going to tear through the conference, and I think everyone needs to be on guard. That final game of the regular season with Reinhardt could be a good one, or Pikeville could just have all the momentum in the world and just go in there and blow the doors off of it and step right back into the playoffs once again. Xavier Malone, again, a stellar day, 31 of 44 passing. He leads the NAI in passing coming in and topped his average, 408 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Peter Zamora, the freshman D1 transfer from Marshall, had time to come on in and get some time as well. Amon Williams, 24 carries, 130 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Jordan Williams, 9 catches, 148 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Deej Savage had 3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 interceptions on the day. And I don't know what the deal is, guys, but we're looking at the second cough drop right off the bat. Right when I opened the program, the throat just kind of closed up and wasn't quite the open I wanted. Thankfully, Stewart got to come in and talk too. Veteran radio guy, so I appreciate him. Point, 2-4 at Union. Commonwealth, 1-5. Those are their records now because Point got another victory, 26-18. And Point got out to a 10-0 lead in this one. This caught my attention. Then Union came back to make the score 10-4 at the half. Yes, 10-4, good buddy. Have you ever seen a football score that was 10-4? I know. I was brought back to that the CB days of the 70s, but I just said 10-4 in my head over and over again. 2 safeties. Then eventually Union got 2 touchdowns as well, but it wasn't quite enough. Points, Omarion Bryce sealed it with a 48-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown with 1:49 remaining in the game. And of course, you can't feel bad for the Cowboys. No, I don't think you can feel bad for the Cowboys. That's all right. Thanks, Matt. But I actually, if we want to go Division I, not Division I, the NFL, sorry. I spend a lot more time in college football than the NFL anymore. It's been tough to cheer for the Cowboys for years, and thankfully my backup team, the Seahawks, has done pretty well, and Mrs. Midwest Sports Net's team is the Chiefs. So that's been a little bit easier. I can just go ahead and casual on into that and cheer for the Chiefs when it comes time for the playoffs. Point, 26-18 over Union. Reinhardt with a field goal victory over Kentucky Christian. Reinhardt now to 3-3. It was homecoming in Grayson, but it was spoiled as Reinhardt now 10-1 all-time against the Knights. And Alex Hansen with a 22-yard field goal game winner with 7 seconds left. Reinhardt's total offense, 168 yards passing. We said they had a good running game. How about this? 354 yards on the ground. Taylor Jackson, 15 of 23 passing for 168 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for a touchdown as well. Ja Colbert, 22 carries, 153 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown, had a receiving touchdown in the game. His 3rd straight game to top 100 yards rushing, but it was his first rushing touchdown of the season for Kentucky Christian. Jackson Wasik, 16 of 33 passing, 286 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and caught 1 for a score as well. 3 touchdowns on the day. Deshaun Webster, 18 tackles, 1 forced fumble, recovered the fumble, and took it 68 yards to the house for the score. So Deshaun Webster with a fantastic day for the Knights. Unfortunately for him, it was in a loss. Lindsey Wilson moves to 6-0, 62-13 over Cumberland's. It was close for a quarter, and then Lindsey Wilson just took over, and the Blue Raiders really are just taking no prisoners in this. Tay Saunders, 17 carries, 207 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 catches, 59 yards, and a receiving touchdown as well. He accounted for 5 TDs on the day, and the Blue Raiders are still undefeated. Bethel, 28-24 over Cumberland. At home for the Wildcats, Destin Chance, 15 of 27 passing for 223 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Jarius Rogers for Cumberland had a couple of catches for 131 yards. That's right. He averaged 65.5 yards per reception. One of those was for a touchdown. Unfortunately, the Phoenix come up 4 points short in the game. Georgetown, 37 on the road at Faulkner, 35. The Tigers are now 4-2 on the season. Georgetown went up 27-0, but missed the extra point on that 4th touchdown. And how many times do we talk about missed extra points? Are they going to come back to haunt you It almost did for the Tigers. Nate Kraft made the only field goal attempt from 34 yards in the fourth quarter, proved to be the game winner. Isaiah Willis-Jackson blocked Jacob Huff's attempt for Faulkner. That was a 46-yard attempt with 3 minutes and 2 seconds left. That would have made it a one-score game, but that block kept Faulkner at bay, and they couldn't come back for the win. Garrick Slunaker, 19 of 27 passing, 263 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Chandler Godby, 6 catches, 96 receiving yards. He had a couple of scores as well. For Faulkner in the loss, Deuce Marshall, how about this? 9 of 19 passing, 221 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He also carried the ball 24 times for 165 yards and a rushing touchdown, 386 yards of total offense for Deuce Marshall. Again, unfortunately, in the loss there. Marion goes to 5-1, 42-35 on the road at Taylor, and the Trojans are now 3-3 here in 2025. Marion 18-1 all-time in the series and now has won 16 straight. There was 1,007 yards of total offense. Marion had 519 of it. Taylor 488. And how about this for Tristan Polk? 11 of 15 passing, 238 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Keegan LaBelle, 29 carries, 236 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns for him. Jake Reichard, 6 catches, 133 yards. He had a touchdown too. Marion took the lead 21-7 in the fourth quarter, and then it was just back and forth through the second and third quarters. A scoreless fourth quarter, the last 5 possessions. It's a 7-point game, and neither team could capitalize, went back and forth. And I know it was driving Roger Meyer crazy. I was seeing his comments in the Discord chat, and he's a big Marion Knight fan. He's wanting to see the Knights do well, but it went back and forth. The last 5 possessions between the two schools, 2 missed field goals, an interception, a forced fumble, and a turnover on downs. No one could get either the insurance score or the tie in that one, and it remains 42-35. The Knights come away with the 5th victory of the season. St. Francis of Indiana, also 5-1 on the year, 49-14 against Madonna. St. Francis in 5 victories over Madonna. The all-time scoring between the two, 235-16 going in. Madonna had 14 points on Saturday, so you have to say it's a step in the right direction. Joshua Kulka, 24 of 34 passing, 416 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks for Kulka on the day. St. Xavier now 4-2, 26-20 over Siena Heights in the final meeting between the two. St. Xavier trailed 20-15 in the fourth quarter, but got a touchdown and a field goal for the win. The teams combined for 120 rushing yards. Not that much for either team. Siena Heights 64, St. Xavier 56. Braden Himmeline, 1 passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns for Siena Heights in the loss, and the Saints fall to 2-3. Lawrence Tech, the Blue Devils get the first victory of the season and keep Judson winless, or in the imaginary winless column that we made up just a moment ago. 59-28 the final score. Lawrence Tech was up 38-14 at the half. The total offense, Judson had 498 yards of total offense to Lawrence Tech's 447, but the Eagles just couldn't convert for scores. Ryan Schuster with a solid day, 15 of 22 passing, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns. Keon Sanders, 14 carries, 121 yards on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. For Judson, Marcus Freeman continues to do well, 21 of 34 passing, 311 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, also threw 2 picks in the game. Grant Alexander Jr. with 10 catches for 148 yards. Olivet Nazarene, the Tigers for Coach Mitchell, 4-1 now on the season, 63-14 over Defiance. The 49-point victory to avenge the 44-point loss to Defiance in their only other meeting. None of the players were alive, though, in 1993 when they met before. 51-7 Defiance then. Olivet Nazarene with the win here. Christian Dureed, well, his game, he just made it to halftime. That was all he needed to do. And before the half, 9 of 14 passing, 151 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns thrown, no interception. Keyshawn Hughley, 5 carries, 101 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns. And Blake Lamb with 4 catches for 140 yards receiving. He had a pair of touchdown catches as well. Defiance, well, Jelani Warren to Markel Wade, 2 touchdown passes, but both of them came with less than 5 minutes remaining in the game. So 63-14, the final. Moving to the GPAC. And we get to Dave Sellen territory. Now, Morningside, 49, Dakota Wesleyan, 17. The Tigers came off a win last week. Of course, Morningside with 5 consecutive victories after the win on Saturday. Morningside has won 23 straight in this series. It's a part of our Bet the Barn segment a little bit later on, which we'll talk about. But Morningside continuing to roll after that season opening loss, and no one is saying that it's any different than just a solid Morningside season. They continue to come home with the W's, allowing lots of folks to play. The second half of the schedule, definitely challenging is the word we've used before, and challenging is the word that we're going to stick with. Zach Chevalier, 19 of 31 for 307 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Drew Sellen, 5 catches for 97 yards and a receiving touchdown. And then he took a play out of the Levi Torgerson playbook, 58-yard punt return for a touchdown as well. So 2 scores for Sellen on the day. Jalen Birch had 12 carries for 64 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns for the Mustangs in the win. Jed Jensen, 21 of 31 passing, 293 for Dakota Wesleyan, 2 touchdowns. Cole Holden caught both of those touchdown passes, part of a 12 catch for 233-yard receiving day. That's a lot. Those are some big-time numbers. And let's go here really quickly to Dave in the chat. Should have looked at the weather forecast before I took the overs. 20 miles per hour crosswind made the long ball tough. Okay, I wasn't looking at the weather forecast either, but stick around, Dave. Here's why I think we had a bad beat on this one. I really, really do. And I'll explain it a little bit later on. Morningside again with the victory in this one, 49-17. Let me stop really quickly, take a breath, and say thanks to everyone for watching here. Appreciate Stewart Davis coming on and talking about the Carroll Saints football win over Montana Western in Dillon on Saturday. Part of kind of an abridged schedule, as the KCAC and the Hart Conference, both just conference-wide, were on a bye week last week, so more games coming up. I do want to give a shout out to everyone. Again, I mentioned Robert. Thanks for joining, being part of the channel. You're welcome to do that. Anyone can join. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We appreciate that. We talk about small college sports and more throughout the Midwest and beyond here on Midwest Sportsnet's YouTube channel. I will say, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, I had a chance to visit with some folks that I didn't know I was ever going to get a chance to visit with. And a shout out to Paul Smith, a colleague of mine that I've worked with on a number of broadcasts over the years, who works for the Bear Bryant Award. And on Friday, there was a fundraiser for the American Heart Association and the Bear Bryant Award down at Texas Live in Arlington, Texas. And if you're familiar with that area at all, it's right in between Dallas and Fort Worth. It's part of the metro area. It probably tends to go a little bit closer to Fort Worth there. It's where the Texas Rangers play. It's where the Dallas Cowboys play now with the new AT&T Stadium. I say new. It's not new anymore, but it's still relatively new. It's the Death Star. That's what it looks like, actually. And I had a chance to get to interview Brian Bosworth and Coach Barry Switzer and Coach Mac Brown. And I have to tell you, it was a blast. It was a thrill. Those interviews, by the way, you can find them on Midwest Sportsnet, but just to get to talk to people like that who've had such a big impact on football. And for me, with Coach Switzer, I grew up in Oklahoma. Obviously, that was a big part of my life in the 70s and 80s. And then as a teenager, watching Brian Bosworth, who happened to, he was something else when he played. He was definitely something else. He's a little bit different now than he was in college, but it was a lot of fun. Of course, Mac Brown was great to get to visit with. Those are on the channel, and I thought that you all might appreciate that, because just getting to visit with anybody and talk football and more, it was a lot of fun. It was really, really neat. So I thank Paul Smith. Praise God for the opportunity, but thank Paul Smith as well. And Robert, well, thank you. They were great interviews. I loved watching them. I appreciate you watching them. It was a blast. And if the Oklahoma ties there, for someone in Oklahoma, it really was something special. And then Oklahoma went out and lost the Red River shootout in the way they did. So that's neither here nor there. We can move right on. Let's do that. Let's go back to talking about what we're here for in college football this week. More NAIA football. We're going to stay in the G-Pack and go to, well, a game that Robert probably doesn't want to talk about that much. Midland 60, Concordia 52, final after 2 overtimes. And wow, 73rd meeting between the two. If you're a Concordia Bulldog fan, it's the first loss, by the way, of the season. 4-1 now. Midland goes to 3-3. Midland is now 40-32-1 all time in the series. So the Warriors have won their share, and you know it's going to be a tough battle. It's an in-state battle, and you know it's going to be a tough one. It was a part of our Bet the Barn segment as well. And for Coach Jeff Jamrog, his 100th game to coach for the Midland Warriors turns out to be a win. The total offense between the two, how about these numbers? Midland had 484 yards of total offense. Concordia had 482. It truly was a very, very tight game. Midland down 38-7, though, in the third quarter. Concordia had a 38-7 lead. I just want to let that sink in just a little bit. That's amazing that Midland came all the way back and actually took the lead. Was up 45-38 late in the fourth quarter. Bulldogs find a way, push it in for the score. You go to overtime. Concordia scored first. Then Midland picked up 2 fourth-down conversions, including a touchdown pass, Brody Johnson, TJ Covington from 10 yards out. And Robert in the chat says, should never have gone to overtime, second overtime. And you know what? You're right. I mean, you get a team to fourth down, not once, but twice in that first overtime, and that the Warriors found a way to put it in for the score. Props to them for that, because that really probably was the backbreaker right there. Brody Johnson to Tay Marks from 13 yards out in the second overtime. And then for Concordia, the Bulldogs get a first down, driving in, get it down. I mean, you've passed that one first down marker, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 incomplete passes. Game over, 60-52. And let's go ahead and we'll go back to the chat here really quickly. And Robert says, what concerns me is that 2 straight games that the Concordia defense has given up big leads. Yeah, and in this one it cost them. So it was just one of those things. 112 points scored. That is the most points, combined points, for Midland in a game that the Warriors have won. So there's a school record in that one. I mean, there have been some games where more points were scored. We're not on the winning side. So a record-setting day for Midland. And how about this? Brody Johnson, 37 of 60 passing. That's 62%. If you throw it 60 times and you're completing 62% of your passes, 424 yards passing, 7 touchdown passes through 1 interception as well, which, by the way, was a pick 6. Devin Adams Jr., 5 catches for 114 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. TJ Covington, big-time touchdowns late in the game, 9 catches, 93 yards, 2 touchdown passes for Concordia. Gideon Stark was 20 of 44 for 294 through 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. Again, unfortunately, came up with a losing effort, and those 4 incomplete passes at the very end, those are the ones that he's going to want back. Carlos Colasso, 30 carries, 171-yard rushings, 3 rushing touchdowns, picks up where he left off last week. And Adam Van Cleve, 9 catches for 105 yards through the air, 1 receiving touchdowns. Ultimately, it's the first loss of the season for Concordia. It's not a season ender, but if you're Concordia and you're a fan there, you know that the thing you look at is that, okay, last year we were 8-2 and didn't make the playoffs. So it's going to be a challenge to go through the remainder of the GPAC schedule, and there are still some very tough games on the schedule for Concordia as well. So we'll go back to the word we used with Morningside. Challenging is what the schedule looks like. Northwestern 28-0 at Briar Cliff. Some of you all were following the drama in this one. There was a bus accident from Orange City to Sioux City, and realistically, it's relatively not that far a trip, but far enough. And on the way, one of the buses was in an accident, single vehicle accident. I like the words from Coach Matt McCarty, and I'll read the quote from him. He said, "I'm so proud of our guys, how they rallied together, played for each other, and just competed. We just need to find a spark. And I think that might have been it for us." Northwestern had lost 3 consecutive games. They come back and they shut out a very tough Briar Cliff team on the road. And how about the numbers from Colby Duncan? The sophomore was 16 of 27 passing, 307 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, threw 1 interception, 13 of 51 rushing, and 1 rushing touchdown as well. Very similar to his first ever collegiate start. He threw for 375 yards there and had rushing touchdowns too. So big start for him. And Tana Scouten, 6 catches, 211 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns for Scouten. Big, big day. Brock Saya for Briarcliff, 50% passing, 120 yards. No touchdowns thrown, 1 interception. Northwestern hosts Morningside next week. And I mean, you look at the records and you say, okay, Morningside's 5-1, Northwestern's just 3-3, and they are just 3-3. I think this could be a momentum shift for the Red Raiders. So, Dave, this one's going to be a big one on the road next week in Orange City, and definitely we're going to follow this one. This one is a big time matchup. I want to see how, or if there are changes. I would imagine there are no changes to the preparation Coach Ryan's going to do, but you go into it with a little bit different feel. Northwestern may have their legs back under them right now. So yeah, could be a big game, Robert. I agree. And I'm sure that Dave thinks so as well. Dordt undefeated, 5-0, 59-7 at Waldorf. The defense now giving up just 6.8 points per game. Total offense in this one, though, and this is the difference. This is the difference in Dordt this year and Dordt last year. Total offense, 531 yards for Dordt, 173 yards for Waldorf. Also a difference maker. Noah Strickfadden, 7 of 13 passing for 175 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Colton Cruz, last year's starter, had some time in this one. Got to come in and throw a touchdown pass as well. Thomas Fritz, 4 carries, 108 yards in 4 carries, had 2 rushing touchdowns. Elliott Beal had 4 catches and crossed the century mark as well, 103 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns for Beal. Devin Indell with 11 tackles to lead the way for that tough Dordt defense. And I've mentioned it before. I'm going to go back and mention it one more time. Dordt under Joel Penner. This is the 10th year. And when the program started, 0 wins, 1 win, 2 wins, whatever. It gets up to enter Joel Penner. And then here are the wins since that time. 5 wins, 5 wins, 7 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 7 wins, 7 wins, 9 wins, 8 wins. What are we going to see this year? The question mark's still in year 10. But it's gone up progressively along the way. This Defenders program is in good hands and making a statement. And, the Northwestern game for Morningside is going to be big. That Dordt game just over the horizon is going to be huge as well. And they made 2 playoff appearances along the way. So we'll keep that in mind. How about this one really quickly? Dave, yeah, Northwestern always has a good scheme against Morningside, and it's a big rivalry. And I don't think this game loses any of its luster at all because the Red Raiders have a 3-3 record right now. It's going to be a big game in Week 8. We'll talk about that through a little bit later on. By the way, one other programming note. I'm not going to drop names here, but I think I've told you all before. I have found the best cough drop ever. And I may put it in the members only one of these times. I'm telling you this cough drop. Maybe they'll become a sponsor someday. But anyway, where were we? Oh, programming note. Sorry. That's cough drop number 3 tonight. I do want to be able to talk for the rest of the broadcast. Programming note is that it looks like we are going to be doing a Wednesday night show this week instead of a Thursday night show. Family is going to have to travel up, actually, closer to where Robert is, to go to a funeral on Thursday. I think there's a chance that I may be back in time for the 8 o'clock Central start time, but I don't want to take any chances, and I just enjoy spending time with you guys a lot. So if it doesn't mess with your schedule that much, I hope it doesn't, but we'll go live on Wednesday night instead of Thursday night this week with our midweek show. All right. Told you this one was circled on the calendar by Mount Marty. It definitely was. 31-14, the final. Mount Marty over Doane. Wow. And it was a 1-point victory last year, not a 1-point victory this year. Although Mount Marty trailed 14-13 at the half. Was it going to come down to 1 point again? And the Lancers said emphatically, no, not going to happen. Mount Marty had the ball for 37 minutes and 54 seconds in this game, ran 70 offensive plays to Doane's 50 offensive plays. Dual sport star Rugby Riken, 20 of 27 passing for 170 yards through 2 touchdowns and a pick. Malachi Hartz and Kyle Hirsch combined for 30 carries. Hartz had a TD as well. Big win for Mount Marty, and the Lancers are now 4-2 and also threatening to make some noise in that GPAC. OUAZ 5-0 on the season. Texas College 0-6 now on the season, and it was a 45-0 shutout. The Spirit now 7-0 all-time in this series. OUAZ had 2 pick sixes. Braden Robinson and Justin Sosnicki each had a touchdown on the defensive side. Panhandle State goes to 2-4 now with a win over Nelson, 34-13. And Chance Guadez threw 2 touchdown passes. He ran for another score in the win for the Aggies. Carlos Vasquez, 2 for 2 field goals, 4 for 4 points after. He had 10 points on the day, and the defense held Nelson to just 245 yards of total offense on the game. Aggies get the win in the Sooner Athletic Conference. Another Sooner Athletic score, Texas Wesleyan 4-2 now with a 61-28 bludgeoning of Louisiana Christian, who now fall to 4-3. First loss of the season in the Sooner Athletic Conference for the Wildcats. Cole Francis has stepped in at quarterback and done a fantastic job. And the first time this season that I have seen this, if I've missed it, guys, let me know. But this should be the first one over 500 yards passing. That's right. Francis was 26 of 43 for 501 on the day, 3 passing touchdowns, and rushed for a score as well. For Texas Wesleyan, 6 different receivers had at least 50 receiving yards. It's a pretty good day. Way to distribute the ball for Cole Francis. For Louisiana Christian, Bryce Perkins, 50%, 18 of 36, 250 passing yards. You know, it's interesting. When your opponent has 250 passing yards and you more than double him up, pretty impressive day for Cole Francis. 2 touchdowns, but he threw 3 picks as well. Langston, it was homecoming in Langston, and I mentioned this. I saw some folks in the Discord chat this week talking about that. I have to tell you, I've been to Langston before for homecoming. The size of the town quadruples at least just from the fan base coming in. It literally shuts down the town, and I do know how to use the word literally. It literally shuts down the town. It is an incredible event there in Langston, and the Lions are now 5-0 all-time against Arkansas Baptist. 48-14 was the final. Langston had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, and a kickoff return for a touchdown as well. The Lions move up to 2-4 after a struggle playing some really tough competition early on. Let's go now to the Frontier. We talked about Carroll and Montana Western. Let's throw some numbers out there with it. 121st meeting, 99 years of football matchups between the two. And as you can imagine, the Frontier Conference, there were a number of years in which these two schools played each other twice in one season. Carroll now owns a 79-40-2 advantage in the series after a 42-34 win. The Saints are 5-1, and the Bulldogs from Montana Western 4-2 now. Caden Hewitt, 22 of 36 passing, 349 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 21 carries, 50 yards on the ground, 1 rushing touchdown. Chris Akulshin, 8 for 193 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Michael Palandri, we didn't get his numbers a while ago, still pretty solid. 26 of 46 passing in that solid reign, 329 yards for the air, 3 touchdowns thrown, 3 interceptions thrown as well, and that was big. Seth Shook with 10 catches for 137 yards and 1 touchdown. Mayville State, Matt, I know it's always a great day to be a Comet, but was it a tough day to be a Comet on Saturday? 21-0. The Comets fall short at Valley City State. 99th meeting between the two. The Vikings have definitely owned this one. 72nd win in the series. Joey Cave for Valley City State, 9 of 16 passing for 120 yards. Maybe not big numbers, but he did throw 2 touchdown passes, and that was all he needed to get it done. Divine Pearson, 10 carries, 31 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. And for Mayville State, here probably is the biggest number of the day, and it may reflect this. And again, Matt, don't want to throw down on anyone, But Aiden Marcusson, 3 of 15 passing for 22 yards and threw 2 interceptions. When you throw and complete as many passes to the team with the other jersey as you do to your own team, you know it is a struggle of a day, and the Comets did struggle. So, and I get it. I mean, it's not a passing offense right now. It's a rushing offense right now. But still, that's kind of a telling stat for Mayville State. Dakota State with a big win over Dickinson State, and the Blue Hawks have now lost 4 consecutive games. That is huge. Last time that happened was 2013. We talked about this last week. 5 straight losses, a win, and then 5 straight losses. And the next season, Dickinson State got Pete Stanton elevated to the head coaching position, still at 97 wins all time. It stopped a 14-game slide for Dakota State against Dickinson State. The Blue Hawks had won 14 straight games over a 10-year span. Dakota State's last win in the series was in 2015. That was 54-21, but then later in 2015, they lost the second game in the 2-game matchup, 49-30. Trey Heddick, 23 of 37 passing for 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. Adrian Villanueva, 2 for 2 field goals, 3 for 3 extra points, 9 points on the day. It was a 27-25 victory for Dakota State. And this is why those extra points are so big. Why Adrian Villanueva's contribution was huge is that, again, extra points come up big. Dickinson State, you get the score on the first touchdown, you get the extra point. You get the score, second touchdown, you miss the extra point. Now you're trying to go for 2 to keep up with Dakota State at this point, miss the 2-point conversion on the third touchdown, miss the 2-point conversion on the fourth touchdown. The Blue Hawks actually had 4 touchdowns to just 3 for Dakota State. And yet, Dakota State gets the 27-25 victory in this one. Dakota State moves to 4-2 now on the season. Montana Tech breezes by Montana State Northern 49-7. The Ore Diggers are 7-0 and continue the best start in program history. Jarrett Wilson, 60 of 20 passing, 80% through the air, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 289 passing yards. And Levi Torgerson, 6 catches, 92 receiving yards, had 1 receiving touchdown as well. Eastern Oregon. I don't know what's with the throat today or why that it's any different now that I started talking for this, but we're going to power through it, and I just believe that God's going to take care of it. Eastern Oregon 26, Arizona Christian 6. Eastern Oregon now 3-0 all time. Elia Karisimasi, 5 for 10 passing for 90 yards. Didn't throw a touchdown pass, but Karisimasi had 2 rushing touchdowns, and that was enough to beat the Firestorm. Southern Oregon, 2-4 now, and both the wins for Southern Oregon have been over Simpson. 48-17 the final in this one. Dom Montiel, 13 of 16 passing, 213 passing yards, 3 touchdowns thrown. He also had 18 carries for 146 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Braden Barthel caught all of the touchdowns thrown by Dom Montiel, 4 catches for 104 receiving yards. And those are our 30 games of the week, just 30 games this past week. It really is something. It was a shortened schedule, a lot more on the docket for next week. So let's go ahead now and let's go to our top 5 performers for the week. And Marcusson. Okay, thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate that. The 2 picks were in the fourth quarter when desperate to make something happen on defense. And, you know, realistically, and that goes back. I'll go back to drop that Oklahoma Sooners reference again. You get a running game like this, and if you can't get things going, if you depend on the ground game so much, if you ever get behind by, 10, 14 points in a game, the ground game doesn't often make up the big plays in a hurry. And so you have to go through the air, and I completely understand that. Still, though, Matt, I would say I completely get it. It's a ground game. It's not predicated on what Marcusson can do, but those are the numbers on that. So anyway, I feel it's an indicative stat. That's all I wanted to drop on that. So let's go ahead and go to our top 5 performances of the weekend. And here they are. A lot of familiar faces on this. And we start with Marion. Tristan Polk, 11 of 15 passing, 238 passing yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns on the day, and they needed everything that they got from him. Keegan LaBelle, 236 yards rushing, 236. And, of course, 2 rushing touchdowns. Jake Reichard, who has now crossed the century mark in receptions for his career, 1 receiving touchdown as well. Lindsey Wilson's Tay Saunders, 17 carries, 207 rushing yards, counted for 5 touchdowns on the day, 4 rushing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown too. Got to give it to Northwestern's Colby Duncan and Tanner Scouten on this one. How many things probably went through their heads over the course of the day? You've got teammates, and I don't know if they were in the bus where, either one of them were in a bus where there was an accident. The game is delayed by 4 hours. And, it's challenging. You've already lost 3 consecutive games to get things going for your season. And they turned things around. Duncan threw for more than 300 yards, accounted for 4 touchdowns on the day. Tanner Scouten, 6 catches, 211 yards receiving, and 3 receiving touchdowns. A big day for Northwestern and for Scouten and Duncan. Carroll, we talked about Caden Hewitt, 5 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Chris Akolshin on the day for Carroll as well. 193 yards receiving, 8 catches, 2 receiving touchdowns. A big day for him. And finally, Midland. Sorry, Robert. Brody Johnson, 424 yards passing, 62% completion in that. 7 touchdowns on the day. Devin Adams Jr. with a couple of receiving touchdowns. Covington with a couple of receiving touchdowns. Midland comes away with the win, and they needed every bit that they got from those particular players to get the win over Concordia. So there are top 5 performers. Let's go to our Bet the Barn segment now. This one was something, guys. This one was absolutely something. So let's see. Who came out on top in this one? Well, Dave Sellen and Robert Whalen came out on top this week. They picked 3 right out of 4, and that fourth one got everyone. We'll get to the 4th one here in just a moment. Let's see here. First over under was points for Cumberland and Lindsey Wilson, and it was listed there. Trying to get the points on this one, you needed to get to be over 56.5 points. I'd say 75 did it. Definitely did it. And Lindsey Wilson took care of it pretty much all on their own too. So I think the lines were set a little bit low because people were talking about taking the over on all those things, and that's what happened. Next one here, as we look at this, Carroll at Montana Western, 679 yards. Take the over. We did 781 yards total between the two. In the rain, no less. In the rain. Oh, that was a rough one. All right, next one here. Concordia. It's a prop bet. Will Concordia create more sacks or give up more sacks? Concordia did not, for all season, give up more sacks. As a matter of fact, they didn't give up any sacks once again, but the defense created 3 sacks. And so those of us who picked create more sacks won that prop bet there. And the final one here, Morningside. Total offense, just for Morningside, not Dakota Wesleyan, but just for Morningside. Would they be able to make it to 509.5 yards, take the over-under on this one? And pretty much everyone took the over. It was an under at 457. Now, Dave, to your point, 20-mile-an-hour winds. It's going to make it a little bit tough to get some of those long passes through there. But looking through this, did we have a bad beat? Because later in the game, Morningside's defense forced a 3-and-out and forced a punt. And then one Drew Sellen came in punt return unit and picked up the ball, and from the 42-yard line, ran it in for the score, a 58-yard punt return to follow. Now, 457 plus 58, if he just fair caught it right there and then they drive down the field and score that 58 yards. That would have passed 509. Is that a true bad beat? I want to know. I'm just teasing, of course. Drew needs to take the ball to the house. Absolutely. But I got to looking at that one going, okay, that one drive would have made the difference, and our overs there would have gone true. We'd actually have had it done. But in the meantime, Dave Sellen and Robert Whalen definitely okay, it was a bad beat. Yeah, okay, it's a go. Okay, thank you. Dave's chat came in two different sections there. Good point. Thank you. But yeah, I'm sure you're all happy with the punt return for the score. So our winners this week were Dave Sellen and Robert Whalen. We're going to have more Bet the Barn things to look at on Wednesday night. Again, programming note, our midweek show will be on Wednesday night this week, and then, of course, on Sunday the week to follow. All right. Taking a breath. I've gone through 3 cough drops tonight. I honestly don't know what happened, but when I started talking to Stewart and opening the show, it was like the entirety of the throat just went like this. And I can't see it, but I can feel it. That's the only way to describe it. So I've got some classes to teach this week at Southeastern. For those of you who didn't know, I'm among other things, I'm actually a college instructor too. And it's tough to teach communications if you can't communicate. So I'm probably going to stop talking here in just a moment. Who knows? We may talk for another 20 minutes here. Probably going to stop talking in just a moment. Say thank you to everyone for watching. You guys are absolutely fantastic. As always, Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet will ask me when I walk up the stairs here in a moment, how'd it go? And I'm going to say I had a great time because I got to have conversations with some of the best people in the world. This is a fantastic community. I appreciate you all so much, and I'm very thankful to get to visit with you all. It means a lot to me. So I just want to let you know that you're awesome. God made you very well. Don't ever forget that. Another big week of football coming up. Definitely Morningside fans, Morningside and Northwestern. That's going to be one that we'll be talking about a lot on Wednesday night, among other games, because now we're really starting to get into it. I think Pikeville's going to run. Carroll has put itself in a good position now in the Frontier Conference. However, I can't imagine somebody else not sneaking in and just trying to slap them around. I say that then as a tie to say thanks to Stewart Davis for being part of the show tonight. I really appreciate him stopping by. It's always fun to get to hear from these play-by-play guys and color guys. Again, year 25 of broadcasting for me, but I got to spend 13 of those years being on a broadcast team for a specific university. And it's fun to follow a team from start to finish through a season. You know, some of them good, some of them not as good. Sometimes there's a playoff run. Those are always a lot of fun. And that's just on the college level, a lot of high school football as well in there. And it is pretty cool. So it's nice to get to hear from them and hear for what they do. And I'm glad to get to bring them on the program. Does anyone have anything else that I missed? Don't think I missed anything tonight. I think we got it all in. If anybody has anything in the chat, now's your time. I told you I was going to stop talking, but all right. It was a lot of fun. Absolutely a lot of fun. This brings the end to the week. So we've got to talk twice. I got to talk to the Boz this week as well, and Coach Switzer and Coach Brown. So it's been a great week and talking to you guys as well. I pray God bless you, and I hope that as many of you as can will make it on Wednesday night. Still be at 8 p.m. Central start time, but I hope you get a chance to make it on Wednesday night. Dave, thanks for being a part of the broadcast tonight. Matt, thank you for being a part of the broadcast tonight. Robert, thank you for being a part of the broadcast. I think you guys made up the bulk of the chat, and I really appreciate it. It was not the same without you. Mason showing up at the last moment. So I'm glad that you showed up tonight as well. Thanks for being a part of the broadcast, guys. God bless you all. And Robert, you, sir, are on the graphic because we have a new graphic now, and I'm grateful for you being here as well. God bless you all. You guys have a great night. See you on Wednesday.